the uni, they get students that are getting real life business experience. For the business, you're getting, really, really bright and dedicated students that want to help you. So yeah, we've used that in the past, and most importantly with that is the business usually retains all of the intellectual property that's developed. So you keep absolutely everything that it develops with that partnership, which is really, really critical. I think there's been some interesting movements recently on apprenticeship schemes and various other things, which I think some of them have been changed as a result of the COVID, government measures, but apprenticeship schemes are nothing new. They are absolutely valid and a good way of getting resource in, and that resource is usually, desperate to develop skill sets and really push for innovation. So a really, really good way of doing things. And then there are some ways of getting debt into early stage businesses where you could potentially leverage some debt, against sales or whatever it is. But we would always recommend going through, the other stages before you start getting yourself into debt to develop a part of your business, because there's plenty of options available to businesses of all stages.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. So, because it can feel quite a heavy risk, can't it? If you're sort of venturing out, you think there's a need in the marketplace, but you're not quite sure whether it's going to be successful, obviously, and whether anybody's going to buy it. So, good advice to sort of steer clear of debt. And what about things like crowdfunding? I know that's been very popular in recent years.
Yeah, I think crowdfunding is still popular. It is probably more so now than ever before, actually. I think it does work well for businesses to get cash into companies quite quickly. It's something that you don't tend to get very much support, so it's more you will get cash into the company. You won't get kind of views and opinions. If you've got, if you go to an angel or a VC, they are more likely to support the business. But crowdfunding is absolutely available to a wide range of very, very early stage businesses. So it's a good tool for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good point you raise about funding plus support versus just funding on its own. I think it can feel very lonely when you're sort of trying to develop new ideas if you're doing that on your own. So perhaps, Rick, you've got an opinion on the sort of public side of funding as well here.
Yeah, certainly. So we would always say that the public funding should only be used where the private funding isn't available. And we're taking that to the next stage of saying, well, we want to work with the private funding landscape. So we're working with angels, we're working with venture capitalists, we're working with that early stage landscape community who are willing to take maybe more patient perspective on life in terms of when they'll get the returns. They'll accept it as a higher risk, but within their portfolio, it will still be high reward. And in the last few years, we've been innovating ourselves as to how we bring these two together. So we bring our grants from the Treasury, from ourselves as taxpayers, we bring that into the party, but then we look to accelerate and shorten the timeline between us investing and then that next stage of investment coming in, hopefully getting to the point of scale up investment as well with VC funding, if that's if that's what's right for the company. So we have, in the year just gone, brought a new product into the market I want to mention called Innovation Loans. And these are currently still available for businesses who have had support from Innovate UK in the past. And depending on what the spending review brings our way, we would like to open this up more broadly. The logic behind the loan is, as you say, Jane, the returns on a loan won't come immediately. It may be several years before the business has actually commercialized and is starting to generate the revenue to pay back the loan. And we saw this as a gap, almost a market failure that we were able to help to step in to fill. So now these loans from Innovate UK, they're called innovation loans. And that enables a very low interest rate to begin with, and then several years of grace before you start to repay the loan. And as I say, if we have a spending review that enables us to relaunch that program, you'll be seeing that opened up to innovators across the UK again soon.
And I know you were telling us a couple of days ago about the Women in Innovation Awards. I wonder if you want to say a little bit about that.
Definitely. So one of the issues the UK has is the scale that we need to increase our R&D activity to means that it's essential that we draw on all the talent that exists in the UK. So equality and diversity and inclusion, it's not only the morally right thing to do, it's also the best thing to do for a business because you get better returns. You have the diversity brings a better project team together, more successful that's seen empirically in the data. And for the economy, it's the only way that we're going to compete as a nation against other nations because it all depends on the talent. So we've got 2 programs live at the moment. The female entrepreneurship program is currently open. So this is to select a cohort of women-led business or women who are leading businesses, innovative businesses, who could act as ambassadors for the whole of the UK. We've done this in a couple of cohorts in previous years, and the female business leaders who have been through this are now paying it back. So they are now involved as an alumni to help to motivate and inspire the next waves coming through. So if that sounds like you or someone you know, you can find that competition on our website. I'll put the link into the chat box to save you a bit of time. And then I mentioned previously Sylvester from Cumbria University, who was studying in Lancaster. So he went through our Young Innovative program, which we ran with the Prince's Trust, because we're trying to get that next wave of innovators who wouldn't conventionally hear about the support that's available to them. You know, they just haven't got that strength of networks yet to be aware of the support that's available to them. And we're using them again as ambassadors to inspire talent in the young talent in the UK to decide to go into an innovative career path rather than something that maybe their grandparents may be more supportive if they went into because it maybe was more of a stable job finding. But what the UK needs is entrepreneurship and people with big ideas to be able to take on the higher level of risks in their career. So that's what that Young Innovators program is there to do. And we're hoping to launch a new wave of that in the coming year as well.
Brilliant, really great to hear about that, and would very much encourage people from Lancashire and businesses from Lancashire who are starting up to be part of that. I think that's fantastic. I wanted to come to our final sort of formal question now, because I'm conscious there's some other questions coming through on the chat that we can see. Around advice for Lancashire Innovation Board. We've got a strategy, we've got a board, we've got a festival, we've got lots of great conversations happening over October. But what is it that we can do at helicopter level, if you like, to really support an ecosystem in Lancashire? I wonder if I can come first to Elizabeth on that.
Right, thank you very much, Jane. I am going to distill it down to 5 points, if I can. I haven't had the privilege yet of reading the strategy, but I think these are the key ingredients to your recipe. Whatever your recipe looks like, I think these are 5 key ingredients to a successful recipe. The first one is to encourage ambition. Sometimes in Australia, they call it the tall poppy syndrome. You know, someone starts getting successful and then you want to cut them down to size, get them to fit back in their box. Actually encourage people to be positively ambitious. The right people will pull others up. They'll pull others up behind them. And, you know, going back to Rick's point, they will also be minded to give back. So celebrate and encourage positive ambition. It's good in the community. Secondly, we can sometimes do what I call the chalk and talk or the lectures, but I think case studies are the way to help others in a very practical way share learnings and experiences that show others what their journey was like. It's not telling others what to do, but it's telling others what you did do and why it worked for you and why it didn't work for you. in quite concrete terms. You can also learn from other sectors. Some of the most innovative thinking is something that you can repurpose from a different sector. So that's why I think case studies, not just case studies within a sector, but case studies on topics that can actually have broader appeal. Thirdly, I think we've talked about it already, showcase and celebrate success and encourage success. That's what success looks like. Can we have a bit more of that, please? Because that becomes very energizing if you can do that. You know, and it's hard work. I've never known anyone to be really successful and it was effortless. Sometimes you've sort of got to make it look a little bit easy, but actually it's never effortless. So showcase it and celebrate it through awards, etc., etc. Role models. Number 4, I would say this because I'm an economist as well as computer science, is if you want to learn the regional economy, you need to support investment in people, training for the jobs of the future, so that you create more high value jobs, more jobs that, you know, are about productivity and support innovation and productivity, as well as in the business. Sometimes it's easier to get loans to buy equipment and to buy stuff. You know, my dad was an engineer, and one of the really interesting challenges is in modernizing manufacturing is it's easier to go and buy more equipment. It's easier to go and buy another van than it is to actually invest in upskilling your people. You need that balance, particularly in the modern economy, if you want to be globally competitive, which was Rick's point. That will allow you then to help businesses that have the ambition to scale up, and also to export. I'm an export champion as well for the Department of International Trade, so I know that's not the event here, but these are key indicators of success, of economic success for your region. How many of your companies are able to sustainably scale up and export? Okay. And the final point, which I think at board level is really critical, is you guys have got great relationships. Facilitate connections and collaboration. It goes back to that leadership function, because that is what is actually going to help you create that magic, that chemistry of what is unique to your region, but injected with some fresh thinking and some fresh perspectives.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, very clear. I wonder, on that concept of fresh thinking, fresh perspective, Simone, can I come to you very briefly on this before we move on to panel questions?
Muting.
Love muting. It's always good.
I think, well, obviously I'll echo everything that that Liz says, and we have talked about that recognition and celebration. I think it's, I'm a big fan of listening to really innovating, a bit like Rick was talking about about young people. I think we've had a lot of a chance over the past 6 months, and I feel like I'm focusing very much on the last 6 months to have different conversations with different people. We've done lots of conversations with young people and about the way that they want to work and the way that they want to live and then the way that they want to innovate. And I think we've got to listen more to our young people. So I'm always a fan of encouraging more young people and young voices and young thoughts at the table to be part of these discussions, because they're going to be the ones that are living, leading and driving our northern economy. So that would be sort of echoing on sort of other points that we've made today, but absolutely listening to our young people to kind of innovate.
I wonder whether we should set up a shadow board at one of the colleges or virtually these days is where we can all hang out anyway, isn't it? So maybe that's food for thought. Thank you, Simone.
Jay, just one thing, when we launched the report last week, we had Dame Julie Kenny, and she talked about, she's the chair of the Wentworth Trust, and she talked about having an apprenticeship trustee. And now, sort of started off at one step, now a year in, they're going, they will be a fully fledged trustee with all those kind of responsibilities and stuff like that. So I think there's something in that. The other challenge, it has to work with the culture of the organisation as well. But I do think there's shadow reverse mentorship that would work as well.
well, if you know, the people coming through into work are the ones who are going to suffer most through the next couple of years off the back of COVID, then, you know, perhaps that's they're going to be the people with the vested interest to really step up and take part. So I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you. Just coming to the Q&A questions that have come in, a great one here about startup entrepreneurs with good ideas. It might be wary of collaborating for fear of ideas being stolen and replicated. I'm guessing, Rick, you've heard that kind of worry before. Is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
So if the idea is at the stage at which the business would actually consider it an asset, that it may actually be valuable to the business, from the question, I think that's what's being described. You can actually get support to undertake an intellectual property audit, which will enable that business to sit back and think about what's the full spectrum of tangible or intangible assets that the business has that will be idea-based, some of which might be surprising to the firm. Actually, they may think that it's not that valuable, where the audit can establish, no, this gives you real advantage, competitive advantage in your market. Getting that audit undertaken can be extremely useful. And you're going to hear it again from me, turn to the Enterprise Europe UK network. They can help you undertake that audit. Now, if the audit then brings to life that there's a need to bring in an IP attorney, or there's a need to go to that next stage of wrapping full protection around these assets, then that's the point at which the EEN would bring somebody else into the picture. So again, just to state, that's the first step, and it's there available to you. I think Ian Sterrett might even be on this call. He's a good man to know if this is what you're interested in.
Hello, Ian, and thank you very much for your help with some of the cohort of 2.0. I'll catch up with you later on that point. But yeah, thank you very much, Rick, for that. Really, really good advice there. Go to some experts, and that's a fantastic first port of call. An interesting question come in about the idea of Lancashire as a special environment for encouraging innovation, in that we're not talking about, you know, every time we get a great big city, somebody hives it off as something else. So lovely Greater Manchester, you know, that whole boundaries debate about what's Lancashire. We're a rural community, some fantastic places in there that have got their own identities. I wonder if I could come to Simone, because you're very good at connecting people across the Northwest, on this idea, well, how do we get better at encouraging innovation in an idea that's not around one big city?
Even more at the moment, where even something that happened last week, it was actually something that that Andy Burnham talked about, that now Tees Valley want to pick up on, and then equally something happening over in Liverpool that Yorkshire want to pick up on. So I think there's an element of, we can all have this obsession about reinventing wheels, but actually I think there's that real power in that when we come together for the right reasons, we have to have that exchange of ideas, where if it's in an environment where it's non-competitive or non-combative, but it is more collaborative, then stuff can happen. So I think often it is about having that diversity around the table, so it isn't sort of territorial, and I think it is about it. You need those gosh, not wanting to be Donald Trump here, those super spreaders that will spread that kind of innovation and those great ideas and be those connectors. And I'm sure Rick will tell us it's on his platform, but it's finding that, because it's, I think one of the other questions, about starting up as a startup entrepreneur with a great innovation, would you go to for that expertise? You need to have sort of those connector people within that can sort of join the dots across those communities, whether it's pan North, whether it's national, whether it's European. So it's trying to find, I think you've got to put that time in to find, ask the right people for the right signposts, because we can spend an awful lot of time on Google search, but just ask. People do want to help. you know, a revert back to when we were, you know, we kind of ran a program over this period. We asked people for help. We asked Liz, we asked Pete, you know, people came to the party to want to help. So don't reinvent wheels. You can pretty much guarantee that what you need or is there's already a variation out there, or someone's already broken the back of it. So I'm a big fan of that, those kind of peer-to-peer mentoring, ask for help, join us, you know, to kind of to make stuff happen. Otherwise it stays in the too difficult pile.
Good advice, and I think we need to get much better at perhaps having conversations within the county as well. So thank you very much for that. Conscious of everybody's time, we're almost at the end of our hour. There are more questions here to answer, but I would hope that we would be able to cover those off in via email or in extra debates. I know there will be a request for some feedback on what else we can do to support Lancashire innovation, but I'd like to close by thanking our panelists very much for their energy and their inspiration today and their fabulous resources for where to try next for innovation, and to hand back to Dan. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the panel for joining us today. Thank you for Jane for bringing this conversation together, and all our panelists. You'll see in the chat as well there, we've just put a couple of links for any feedback that we can put through to the newly formed innovation board there. We appreciate any comments and conversations, and we'll piece that all together and put it back to them. I hope you all enjoyed today's session, and you'll continue with our next session is on Thursday, when we'll be looking at the Lancaster University Health Innovation Campus. But in the meantime, if you can visit lancashireinnovationfestival.co.uk to find out everything that's happening across this next month. Thank you for your time, and we'll end it there. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.